The morphine drip had slowed the pain to something bearable, but it hadn't touched the fear. Gus lay still, 80 years pressed into the narrow hospice bed. His rosary beads rested between his fingers, not because he was praying, but because he didn't know where else to put his hands. The room smelled of cut flowers going soft at the edges. Somewhere down the hall, a television murmured. His daughter Elena sat nearest the window, not watching him. His son Marco had stepped out 20 minutes ago for coffee and hadn't come back. His wife had been gone 11 years. "I'm not ready," he said. No one answered. He hadn't expected them to. Then the light changed. It didn't flood the room. It arrived the way dawn arrives, so gradually you can't say exactly when darkness ended. Gus blinked. Elena looked up from her phone and then looked back down, as if she hadn't seen anything at all. He had. The figure standing at the foot of his bed was not what he'd imagined. No wings, no robes, just the stillness that the room rearranged itself around, a quiet so complete that even the IV machine seemed to hold its breath. "Gus," the voice landed somewhere between sound and memory. "Who are you?" His own voice came out rough, smaller than he meant it. "You know who I am." He did. He didn't want to. He looked at the rosary in his hands, the wooden beads his mother had pressed into his palm at her own deathbed, telling him they'd been blessed in Rome, though he'd never verified it and had believed her anyway. "I'm not done," he said. "There are things He stopped. What things? The list he'd been assembling for years had gone empty. "I don't know. Things. Tell me one." He thought about it seriously. The light at the foot of his bed waited without impatience. "I never told Marco I was proud of him. Not once. I thought it was understood." He swallowed. "It wasn't understood, was it?" "No, it wasn't." That honesty hit harder than comfort would have. Gus closed his eyes. "He knows you loved him," the angel said. "They always know that part. It's the words they carry the longest. The silences. Then I failed him. You held him every night for 3 years when his mother worked the late shift. You drove 4 hours each way to every single one of his college baseball games and never once told him when you were tired. He has a son of his own now. Watch how Marco talks to him." Gus hadn't considered that. He hadn't let himself look forward far enough to consider it. "Is it over?" he asked. "Everything I was supposed to do, is it over?" "The part you were given here, yes. And the rest?" A pause. Not uncertainty. Something more like tenderness finding its shape. "That's what I've come to show you." Gus looked at Elena. She was still at the window, her phone face down in her lap now, her eyes closed. She looked in this light like her mother. "She can't see you," he said. "No, but she'll be all right." It wasn't a question. The angel answered anyway. "She will grieve terribly, and she will be all right." Both are true at the same time. Gus had lived long enough to understand that. Both things at once. That had been most of his life. He looked down at the rosary. His hands had stopped trembling. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "What comes next?" "Not the way this has." He almost laughed. Coming from an angel, that qualified as a joke. The light at the foot of the bed deepened, not brighter, just fuller, the way a room feels fuller when someone you love enters it. Gus felt his breath slow. Not stop. Slow. Like a man setting down something he'd been carrying a long time. "I was afraid," he said, "my whole life that none of it mattered." "I know." "Did it?" The angel extended his hand. "Come and see." Gus reached up. In the chair by the window, Elena opened her eyes. She looked at her father. Really looked, the way she hadn't let herself since she'd arrived 3 days ago. His face had gone still. His hands were open, the rosary loose between his fingers. She sat with him for a long time before she called for anyone. She didn't know what she'd felt pass through the room. She didn't have a word for it. But something had shifted, and the air, impossibly, smelled like the garden outside her parents' first house, the one they'd sold before she was old enough to remember it clearly. She would tell Marco about it later. He wouldn't believe her. She didn't mind. She had felt it. That was enough. Let me know which app you're using and I'll troubleshoot the file download too. The end.